Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Pro Trade Room Plus and the API report. My name is Lee Goldstein, the trading director for 10 Minute Trades. Please remember, I'm not a financial advisor. All the trades we discuss are for educational purposes, so trade carefully. It is possible to lose money trading futures. And I do want to say hello to all of our friends that are watching us on YouTube. So thank you for joining with us today. This is our first stream of the week. And let's see how everything goes today. So let's talk a little bit about our API report, which it really is a troubled report at the moment. Little bit of trouble, as uh, as RoboCop says, trouble, trouble. So we've had three stops in a row on this report. Chantal and I started to do some testing, and it's very difficult to test a report that has such weird movement and also a report that trades at a very difficult time of day when the liquidity is very bad, very low, and it's just very hard to test. Um, the truth is, this is one of those reports where you often don't know what happened unless you traded it live. And there are reports that fall into that category. You can't always see the liquidity in your replays and in the downloaded data. So I wish I could say that I was positive we have a fix, and I don't. Now, it's also a question, do we need a fix? I mean, we've had three trades in a row that haven't worked. That's not necessarily the end of the world, but it does get your radar up. I mean, if I have three in a row, it could be the beginning of a trend. So you want to be careful when that happens. Um, we have a minor, very minor tweak to the range, and I've tested some bracket breakout trades. I've tried testing some different length range trades. I really haven't come up with anything very meaningful yet. Doesn't mean we're going to give up, but it may be sometimes a little bit of patience is what you need with a report. You don't want to panic after three that didn't work. One of the interesting things about the report is when I go back in time and look at its behavior, what's really interesting is there's been very few stopouts. There's been reports that haven't worked that were, say, dull, meaning they got filled and then they didn't go anywhere after the fill. But it's pretty rare to find stops on this report, which is a good thing. It means that it's been a pretty low risk event to trade. But that's a reason why our radar's up a little bit more because we've had three stops in a row. That has not happened in a very long time. I went back to January and I didn't see three stops in a row. Now I want to be fully transparent. I did not look at every single date from here back to January, but I took quite a few snapshots, of the DMMs, and I'll show you a couple just to give you an idea, the procedures that you have to take. So, what you have to do is you've got to look back in time to see what the trading was like. Just out of curiosity, the one thing I didn't do is I did not look at all way back, like a year back, more than a year, for instance. This is going back January of 23. And even then, there were not many stops. You had some cancels, you had a dull, and you had three winners in a row. And then if we move up in time, because that's what you do on these snapshots. You keep moving up in time till we get closer and closer to where we are now. And now we're a year ago, okay, because this is 8/22/23, and you could see there's only one stop out of six. But notice the moves are rather small. 12 ticks, 13 ticks. You're not going to make a whole heck of a lot of money when the moves are that small. There was one nice move, 50 tick move, beginning of the month, 2023, a year ago. Then, so I would go a little bit more closer to us in time to see what was going on as we get closer. That was a busy day. And interesting, not very many winners at the end of August going into October of 23, but it wasn't like there were stops. There were dull trades. There was one stop, it looks like, September 6th, and then there were three dull trades in a row and a cancel. That was an extremely mediocre time period for this report. Beginning of October and the end of August, very, very poor performance on this particular event. So let's go a little further, just because this is helpful. Seeing these snapshots just gives you a sense of what the report's been doing. And then if we go into the end of November, into December, you have a couple of winners in a row in December, three dull, and a cancel. So still not performing all that great towards the end of the year. And then let's get into the beginning of the new year. Let's look at a more recent DMM. And then we had win, win, win. We had 3 out of 6, 2 cancels and a dull. 3 out of 6, 2 cancels and a dull. So it's improving. And then we went through a pretty good period. I wish I could find a May DMM. I don't see one, so we'll do the best we can. And let's see what we got here. So we got 4 out of 6, end of March, middle March, I would say. Middle March, middle April, 4 out of 6 winners. It starts trading better. And then that's the period where we had our 6 and 7. After that, we got our 6 and 7 winners in a row. It's unfortunate. Ironically, that's the one DMM I don't think I have. Let me just see. What happened to my May DMMs? I don't know. Let me just look in one place, see if it shows up. No, it's funny. Isn't it funny? It's feeling inside. It's not there. No DMM. All right, the most closest to that. Well, you know what? There's a way to, if we look at a video from June, we should have the DMM at the beginning of the video. Let's see if my theory is right. Somewhere in this video, the DMM, there it is. And that's what I'm talking about. 6 winners in a row, first week of May into the beginning of June. So you could see we went through a very, very nice period on this report, and now it's in a mediocre period. Ravi, okay. Right, you're from Switzerland, right. I got you guys mixed up. That's okay. Thank you. All right. So you could see it's very interesting to look at snapshots of the behavior of a particular report, especially a weekly report. It really gives you a good sense of what's going on. So it makes me want to be extra cautious today. I'm not optimistic that we have a great set. I'm not optimistic our problem is solved. We don't have a solution. We just have to be patient. I think that's our solution. So you have to decide. You can trade just the after the news part of the trade. We have two trades. We trade based on waiting for the news to be released, comparing it to the forecast, and then taking a trade based on that. So today, oil is at the moment, it's somewhat negative. I like to look at like a 10 or 15-minute chart, get a feeling what's oil been doing overnight. 4 in the morning, oil had a very nice bullish move up, and then it sold about 3/4 of that off, and that puts it about where it is right now. So certainly oil can move any direction, I would say, on this report, and I think we are far enough away from the high or the low, certainly from the high. I think we're far enough away from the low to take a trade in any direction. How many ticks are we away from the low? 54. Way too many to be a magnet trade. That would be 46, 69 ticks away from the low. Way too many. I don't think we have a magnet trade. Let me make sure I'm calculating correctly. Yeah, we're 73.24, so we're 46, 69 ticks away. We're not going to get that kind of movement. That would be very, very surprising. So I'd say a magnet trade's out of the question. Theoretically, you could have a magnet for the close, the previous day's close, or the VWAP. It's possible, but this is not a trade that moves the markets that quickly that it may not be that that's the kind of trade you want to take. Today, my gut feeling, honestly, really is to trade it the way we always trade it. So I'm going to set up, but I'm going to set up only a one contract breakout, wake up range trade, a one contract range only. Not willing to risk um, multi contracts when the behavior is suspect. All right, we need the report to prove its behavior again. At least I do before I take another breakout with more than with two or more contracts. So, and I really have to think hard if I want to even risk a penny on the breakout after the way it's been behaving. And after looking at all those DMMs, it really tells you that, this report needs to be in a good mode to really trade profitably, and it's not in that mode right now. So it may be the smartest thing you can do is look for the after the news trade and let the range start behaving again. We can always trade it, but that's what I think I'm going to do. That's not what I think I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to set up the range trade. I can't I can't it's that missing out of a good trade that really can drive you crazy. So look, here's the range trade. Here's the range trade. So do I think this trade has really changed and that now our range setup is a problem? I don't think so. All right? I don't think so. I'm going to trade one contract range trade live. That's what I'm going to do. And I'll wait also for the after the news trade as well. So I will save risk by not trading both contracts or more. So we've got the range start time 16:29:58. Now, the one thing we did see that I'll give it a shot today is to add 1 second to the range. If we add 1 second to the range, it would have made 1 out of 2 of our stop outs over the past couple of weeks. It would have made it safe. It could not save one of the trades. It was not the second of time that made the difference. There were other things going on. So the range starts at 1629.58, and make sure you choose range trade from the trade type. 1629.58, 4 ticks above the range, 4 ticks below the range, and I'm going to show the range graphics on chart. That means it's going to draw the range and show it to me. The color of the range is going to be magenta, and the thickness of the lines is not that thick. It's a 2, okay? And that's how we're doing it. The number of bars doesn't matter. We're using time to create this range. Now, we're going to activate this range at 1630.03. That's our experiment for today. One position, and I'm going to go for a target of 10 ticks. And I'm just thinking real hard about how I want to approach this. Give me 1 second. I'm going to go for a target of 9 ticks. And then my stop is 13. My stop is 13. So position size 1 is a 1. Profit target is 9 ticks. The stop is 13. And that's the trade. That's how I'm doing it. I'm not moving. If the market moves, I'm not doing anything else. Either we're going to get a medium to decent move, or the trade's not going to work. I'm going to trade that in my Buell Knox account. I got to connect it. Give me 1 second. I'm sorry. There's a part of me that thinks that we've had 3 bad trades and now we're going to return to the mean on the report and just go back to normal. It's possible. So I'm going to think that that's what's going to happen, that we're going to go back to normal. I don't really, I mean, there's no reason in the world that we won't, other than the fact that if everything is changing, then we won't. But it's been trading so similarly for so long that I'm going to continue. I'm going to be Einstein. I'm going to do the same behavior over and over again until I am declared mentally incompetent. Okay. The only thing I am changing, though, slightly, just adding 1 second to the range. 1629.58 is the time of the range. 4 ticks above the range, 4 ticks below the range. That's where our orders will show up. Show the range graphics on chart, and then end the range at 1630.03. One order, 9 ticks. And there's really no harm. Look, if the market moves 10 ticks, let's say 11. If the market moves 11 ticks, move the stop to break even plus 6. There's no reason not to do that. It doesn't hurt, and it only protects. So I'm going to do it. If market moves 11 ticks, move my stop to break even plus 6. So market moves X is 11, stop to break even X is 6. Apply it, okay it. Make sure I put my strategy on the account that I'm going to trade it in. and that's going to be in my Buell Knox account. I'm going to apply it and OK it and put my chart trader on that account. And then we still have 10 minutes to go. And then what do? We have an after the news trade also on this report. For everybody that's new here, just make sure you enable your range trade also. Anybody that's new here, don't forget that we have a secondary setup, and that setup is based on the forecast. And the forecast is for a pretty big drawdown, 2.8 million barrels. So if there is a large build or less of a drawdown, then you might want to go short. Okay. If there is a huge drawdown, it's got to be pretty big. It's got to be pretty big. The drawdown's got to be pretty darn big to probably make me want to go long, because we are somewhat negative latter part of the day. I'd rather have a build and go short than long. That's my gut feeling, because the market's pushing down, if anything. If there's a tiny drawdown or a build, preferably I would like to see a build before I do anything. Let me just think for a second. For me to go long, I need a big drawdown, like 8 million barrels. All right. That forecast needs to be negative 7 million, negative 8 million. Then I would consider taking a long for a test of the VWAP. If there's less of a drawdown, but a lot less, maybe flat, 0 or above to a build, then I would go for a short for a huge, monstrous test of the low, which it won't test. It will not get that far, in my opinion. I'd be shocked. But that's the strategy I'm taking, so I will put a position on, and I'll put a full-size position on with a 20-tick target. That would be asking a lot. And just a 15-tick stop. You can also trade the second part of the trade with micros if you prefer. I don't like micros very much on the range trade because of liquidity and fill issues, but on the after the news trade, micros are great. If you want to reduce your risk and trade a couple of micros, you can. Remember, on a reversal continuation trade, time doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is whether you have a position and how many, what your target is, and what your stop is. And then I'm going to need very strong numbers in one way or the other to make me interested in taking this part of the trade. And I'll do that in my regular account, our JOBB account. So understand, don't forget, this report is a private report. The news is not known to the public for 5 minutes after 4:30. The news takes place at 4:30. Usually we notice that the market knows what the news is, but you cannot always count on the direction that the market takes from the news. We try to be smart and cute I try to be smart and cute way too often on this report. I'm not going to try and be smart and cute on this report today at all. As much as I am smart and cute, I'm not going to try and be smart and cute on this news. I'm going to let the numbers tell me what to do. So let's say, just remember that we are looking at investing.com down here, and I'm also watching and listening to Financial Juice Pro on my other monitor, because they often tell me what the news is in my headset, in the Squawk Box. Financial Juice has a Squawk Box that you have to pay for, but I'll tell you something, it's worth every penny. Their service is not very expensive for what you get. Their Squawk Box, they're the only calendar that actually really covers API. I'll take that back. Investing.com covers it. They get the data also. Usually, Financial Juice speaks the data before it's available on the screen on the website. All right. So we will know what our forecast is compared to the actual. We'll know what our actual is compared to the forecast. So remember, if there's a build, I'll probably take a short. I will take a short. I hope there's a nice build. That's my preferred direction today. It can go either way. I mean, just honestly, we looked at the 15-minute chart. Overnight, oil was bullish. Afternoon, it became a little bit bearish. It could go any way. We're far enough from the low that we have room for the report to move the price. Okay? Everybody clear? I'll go over that range trade once more for everyone. So you choose range trade as your trade type. The range start time, scroll down a little bit, the start time, 16:29:58 Eastern Time. Your local time is the time that you use, not my time, unless you're in the same time zone. 4 ticks above the range, 4 ticks below the range. Those are the actual orders that will show up after the range is defined by our time, starting at 16:29:58, ending at 16:30:03. And I'm just looking for one position, a 9-tick target. Stop is 13. If the market moves 11 ticks in my favor, my stop will automatically move to break even plus 6. And then I've chosen the correct accounts. Okay. Don't forget when you enable trades, the taskbar of the chart. This is what I call the taskbar. Up top, you have a break even button, a combine button. Break even, if you're in a profitable trade, it will move your stop to break even. The combine button doesn't care if you're positive or negative. If you have more than one position open, it'll combine those orders to the order closest to the price, current price. So let's see what happens. Let's see if my theory that we're going to return to the mean today on the API report is correct. If we just have another miserable stop out, then we really have to take a look, because 4 in a row would be way outside the norm for this behavior, this report. And what that would probably mean is we probably would just trade the after the news for a couple of weeks to see what happens, to see how it goes. Because I don't think at the moment that the real problem is the setup, because there's not enough movement. There's not enough price movement generally before this report. That's one of the big problems. And I could be wrong. Chantal and I will do more testing. The bracket, a breakout trade, didn't look all that promising to me. Years ago, that's exactly how we used to trade this report. It was a monster breakout. 30 and 40 ticks regularly. So our range is going to start to draw right about now. There's our range drawing. The orders are going to go on the chart right about now. There's our orders. Now, if it continues in the same direction, then my theory is correct that we've had a trade that's going to go the same way and return to the mean. It looks like not a good trade because we know usually the best results for the API trade is a burst that hits your first target or comes awful close. We have what appears to maybe be a dull report. Now, a dull report is not the end of the world, but I do now have to wait for the news to see what's going to happen. I'll leave my range trade alone. If anything, I might shrink my target a couple of ticks if it moves in my direction. I'm not going to change the stop at the moment. I've taken my risk. My risk is 13 ticks approximately. I'm willing to risk that. It may not move at all until the news comes out. Now, if there's a giant drawdown, then I might exit the range trade if I haven't been stopped out on it. That's the truth. I might exit it because if there's a giant drawdown, that would make me want to go long. I'm not overjoyed with the price action. This is not looking like it's going to be a good trade because the price is moving up. But we'll see. We have a few ticks left of life. I mean, there was nothing unusual or weird about the fill. And we know that this is the paint dry trade. Watch the paint dry. That's how this trade often works. But if I had to, gauge my optimism on this trade at the moment, it's not optimistic at all because it's totally moved against us. I remember the first days when I started trading. I literally used to pray. It was like, oh, I'd do any, please go my way. I'll never enter like that again. I know there's people out there that went through the same thing. And yes, we do record them, and some of them get posted on our website. All right. So look, price has changed a little bit. You never know on this time of day. You can get quick little changes in direction. Right now, we've gotten a little bit of breathing room here. The key is we're waiting for the news. That's the key. Waiting for the actual news on this report. The market knows it. The behavior is not really showing it's not showing its hand, in my opinion. The market is not giving away the news today. Sometimes it does. Sometimes we think it does, and it doesn't. Sometimes what happens is oil moves in a direction that's not related necessarily to what the news was. Oil is one of the instruments that does that more often than some of the other instruments that we trade. Gold is a little bit better about going in the direction you think it should go based on the news result. Now, I don't know about most of you in here, but I am literally starving. What's for dinner? What are we having for dinner tonight? That's like really on my mind. Now, price is helping us out here. Not going to do anything. We know better. You got to just wait this trade out. Don't forget the markets close at 5. The brokers may raise margins. Some of them may raise margins on you. 10 minutes to 5 or a quarter to 5, it's possible that they will raise the margins. Most of them do because they don't want you to be in a trade after the market closes. Now, I still do not see the news result. I'm looking on Financial Juice. I'm looking on API. If I get very quiet, it's because I'm hearing the news in my headset and I'll read it out loud. I'll speak it out loud. So we've had a change in direction. That doesn't necessarily mean anything. We've traded this enough times to know that this movement sometimes is the correct direction, sometimes it's not, but we've had two directions. We've had up and down. The only thing we need now is sideways. Up, down, sideways. What was that song called? It was in the 60s. Up, down, I can't remember. Up, down, sideways. I don't know. Strawberry Alarm Clock, I think it was. It was the Strawberry Alarm Clock. I'm sure that was the band. Somebody help me out. Someone's going to Google it. Google's cheating. Sometimes you don't want to cheat. You got to rack your brain. Nobody racks their brain anymore. Everybody jumps right on Google, right? Do you ever rack your brain? Not too often. I'll just Google it. Over, under, sideways, down. Is that it? Strawberry alarm clock. Come on, hit my target. I'll take it. Hit my target. Now, I'm going to move my stop to safety. Why lose? Even though I know it's a dumb thing to do on this trade, because there's a real strong possibility. If you're in cash, it'll probably pick off your stop. It probably would pick off your stop. But it's a slow time of day, and that's what I'm doing. You don't have to. You could leave your stop where it was. Still no news. This is not unusual. This is perfectly normal. We might not get the news for a couple of minutes. It might come in a second. What we would like to see is a build. We'd like to see a build. Because then our direction on the range trade would be down. And it would be easy. Now, I cannot enter the second trade until my range trade is over. Okay, that's the other thing. I want the direction to agree with my short, or it'll screw up my settings on my range trade. I mean, in theory, you don't want to, not in theory, you don't want to trade two setups on the exact same account with the exact same instrument. Still no news. Normally, I would probably hang in a trade till 5 of 5. I know that Chantal likes to exit by 10 of 5. Okay, so a flat trade on my prop So that range trade is done. That's fine. We'll see what direction we wind up now. Now we're just waiting for the news. Waiting for the news. No news is not good news or bad news. It's no news. Now, yes, I could have tried to grab 2 or 3 ticks profit on the prop account, but I'd rather have let it try to see if it would continue down. Still waiting. Usually we have the news pretty close to now, if not by now. It's a little bit. Usually it comes out around 1638-ish, somewhere in there. Still nothing. Now the question is, has this report returned to the mean? Well, we didn't get a stop out, right? You could have had a couple of ticks of profit, so I'm not going to give up on the report yet. It wasn't a great move. It could just be summer also, in terms of the move being smaller, the time of year. Now I'm sorry I didn't pull my stop a little further away, right? I'd like to see a build. If there's a build, I'll hit that instant short button, but I will not hit it. I will not hit any button until I know what the news is, under any circumstances. So still waiting. Still waiting. This is totally normal for this trade. It's how it works. It is quiet. Wow. It is quiet. Last week, we had a 5 million drawdown. If we had a 5 million drawdown today, there would be no trade for me. I'd want a 7 or 8 or more. Now that's interesting. I don't think we've ever seen a situation where the news did not come out. That I don't recall if we've ever, I don't think I've ever seen that happen. It doesn't leave you a ton of time, but there's still plenty of time for the trade. So if you're watching on YouTube and you're still awake, you could hit that like button. Let people know you like our streams. We'd appreciate it. And we do have an early morning room tomorrow, 6 o'clock. Make sure you check the schedule. The room starts earlier than it said on the original weekly schedule. Target's earnings are at 6:30, and the room will be at 6. I think Target's earnings are going to be really negative. Normally, I don't think about that much, but it's usually not a fantastic earnings trade. I think there's an opportunity for it to be a better trade than usual because of bad news. Still no news. This is late. This is later than normal. Definitely later than normal for this event. It makes me want a very big offset to take a trade. Don't forget, the market closes at 5 p.m. You have to make sure you're out. And then some cash account brokers will be raising margins as of now. Some of them 15 minutes before the close, 10 minutes. Pretty unusual for it to be this. Oh, you know what? It's 0.347. 0.347 on the build. It's just not good enough that I'm gonna take a short on that. 3.7. It's not even a half a million barrels of a build. So it's really like a 3 million barrel build because you add that to the negative number. It's not, no, it's like if you add 3 million, it had to go 2.8 and then go another 3.347. So it's like a 3 million barrel build. It's a little bit late, folks. It's a little bit late. I'm going to let it sit. I'm going to let it sit. I mean, I wouldn't go, it's a short if you're going to do anything. It's a short if you can do anything. You only have about 5 minutes, about 7 minutes to trade it. 7 minutes to trade it. So I'm going to watch for a couple of minutes. And thank you for that, Doc. Right, you have to be out of your prop trade before 5 also, which is just like you would want to be out of your cash account also. So you're really cutting it tight. You're cutting it tight here just for a couple of ticks. It's probably, how many ticks are you going to get? Let's watch it for a couple of minutes. It should go down a couple of ticks. That's what I think. If it goes based on what the news is a short because there's more oil around than expected. It's not a huge number. The news was known to us when the price was 11, 73.11. So, but especially today, because we were so close to the end of the day, you had to really take that trade. You should have taken that trade 3 or 4 minutes ago. Ironically, it hasn't moved that much. It could be dull. It could just be dull all the way around today. It doesn't have to move a lot. There's no law. I like to try to put as many possibilities in my favor as I can. How much time do you have left to trade? How good is the number on the news? If it had been a 2, 3, 4 million barrel build, it would be much better for a shorter period of time. I wanted a higher number for a shorter period of time that we have left to trade. Because really, up until recently, we used to almost always think of getting out by 1650. What I noticed a couple of months ago is that I'd like to stay in till 1655, that sometimes there's been continuation that long. But you really have to start thinking about getting out around 55. You want to give yourself time to exit intelligently, especially when the market's very slow. Pretty dull. Pretty dull. I don't think, at the moment, I don't think we made a mistake by just, trying the range trade made sense. It was possible to get some ticks. A couple of ticks were available. And then I'll watch this till '07. It's 57, because that's when I would start being real serious about getting out. That's interesting though. Price had some decent moves. The news came out here. That was our news candle. Then the price went up a little bit. That one candle had about 7 ticks. But then price went down. It went from 27 to 8 to 7 actually. So that was actually the best move on the event, was the move down. But there's not our fault that the news wasn't out. It's nobody's. It just is what it is, the way it goes. Watching the price, like I said, 11 was the price where we were when we knew what the news is. So you could see that this was pretty dull after the news was released. Once the news was known to the market, it was dull. So that's what I would call this trade today. A range trade that was a small winner, because it was. And then the second trade was dull. Okay, everyone, we'll do this again next week. Sometimes we get some great moves. We've had moves that go to the VWAP, you know. We've had good moves like that. So this trade, right now, we have not lost faith in it. We'll see how it does. It might be we just got to get through Labor Day. That's my thinking. We'll get through Labor Day. I want to thank everybody on YouTube. Thanks for watching. I'm going to shut the YouTube stream down first. Hit that like button on your way out, everybody. We really appreciate it. It's very nice for us. So thanks for watching.